Hello, Dr. Bryant. Um, I hope all is well with you and your family during this time of the COVID-19. Hope you guys are staying safe and clear from all germs as possible. But today I'll be talking to you about Chapter 17, the legal consideration in sports management. The first topic that I would like to cover is the basic law of this chapter. The law is commonly defined as any system of regulations to govern the conduct of people of an organization, community, society, or nation. This law is basically an accumulation of rules and regulations that we as citizens have to abide by. Failure to abide by these will lead to jail time or consequences, such as like a criminal penalty or something like that. The U.S. Constitution also is separated into three branches: this legislative, executive, and judicial. With that being said, I will explain what each branch stands for and what they're used for, or what each branch stands for. Starting off with the legislative branch. The legislative branch, which includes the U.S. Congress and state legislators, enacts laws known as the statutes. The executive branch is responsible for the implementation and enforcement of these statutes through numerous government agencies that write or promulgate rules and regulations. Many government agencies also create policies, guidance, and documents to address how laws applies in the specific circumstances. The judicial branch is made up of all the state and federal courts, and they are responsible for interpreting the Constitution, statutes, regulations, rules, and policies, documents, and filled in any gaps left by legislators. The American judicial system is divided into distinctly separate federal and state systems. Each of the 50 states has a state constitution that governs the conduct of the state government and protects citizens of the state. Each of the 50 states has its own court system, as does the federal government. Meaning, like, our Georgia's court system and what the federal government here in Georgia can be different than the governments and the court systems in Alabama, let's say, because they have their own rules and regulations of what they follow and their own laws in that state. Another thing is that a fundamental premise of the law includes the concepts of precedent, and stare decisis. Next, I'll be talking about the source of law, the different sources of law, and with that, I will define what each one is. With starting out, the four are constitutions, statutes. I'm sorry, I cannot get this word right. Administrative law and common law. Starting out with Constitution. The Constitution is basically the U.S. Constitution and individual state constitutions. Statutes are the federal laws enacted by Congress and state laws enacted by state legislators. Administrative law, rules and regulations created by federal and state government agencies. And the common law is federal and state court decisions. Starting out with the next topic. The U.S. Constitution is the supreme law in the United States and is regarded as the document that provides the greatest source of individual rights to American citizens. The Constitution is made up of a preamble, 7 articles, and 27 amendments. Over the years, several amendments have been added to the Constitution. The first 10 is the The first 10 amendments to the Constitution is what we know as the Bill of Rights, which were added in 1791. The other 17 amendments are something like what I would like to call more of like the citizen side of the 27 amendments, which are the abolishment of slavery, the right to vote for all citizens, regardless of gender and race, which was added over time. Next, I will talk about the federal legislation. The U.S. Constitution empowers Congress to enact legislation in varieties of subject areas. In addition, many federal agencies are responsible for enforcing and implementing federal statutes. I'm sorry, I should have been keeping track of these pages, but now I'm on page 365. For example, the U.S. Department of Education, the DOE, enforces the Title IX, which prohibits, for the DOE is basically, like I said, the Department of Education, and their Title IX enforces strictly on gender discrimination and educational programs. The DOE investigates numerous allegations of gender discrimination each year that are related to college athletics. Another example would be the FTC, which is the Federal Trade Commission. The FTC enforces or strictly focuses on laws that prohibit false and deceptive advertising. Before I get to this, Title IX is really like, in my opinion, is something that is really needed because we see like around the world and stuff like that at different campuses where things like sexual assault get brought into a lot of different scenarios because of how men handle women's like after parties or something like that, or just simply just try to attack them in a sexual manner. And I feel like that Title IX is a great way and is needed in the world because of situations like these. Moving on to my next topic, to dig deeper into Title IX and sexual violences on campus, like I stated. Title IX, it was enacted in 1972, which prohibits discrimination based on gender in any federal funded education programs or activity. So like I said, the Title IX is basically, like it said, prohibits discrimination of gender in a federal funded education, meaning at like Emmanuel College, for example. All colleges are subjected to a Title IX, or to Title IX. Now on 367 at the top. With Title IX in athletics was primarily evaluated in 3 areas. The first area looks at school distribution of financial aid among its women and men athletic teams. Second area evaluates other benefits, opportunities, and treatments within men and women sports programs and variety of support service areas such as travel and perding, locker rooms, housing, and publicity. The third area examines whether the interests and abilities of the underrepresented group, which is women, have been accommodated. I know this is kind of going into effect. I know we talked about this in class where women really didn't even have a college team. So with the Title IX coming in, Title IX didn't really focus on more of a sexual thing at that time. But Title IX also, as I just said, brought in help to like jump off. I think it brought in help to jump off women's sports. I know that's what you discussed in class, how women didn't have a college team, only men did. And with Title IX helped jumpstart that for women. 2 facts about Title IX that goes around on different college campuses is that It is estimated that 25% of college or 25% of campus sexual assaults are committed by student athletes, which is of particular importance to the athletic programs. And that's why that with that being said, I know at Emmanuel, before the season, during the season, it is stressed. Like Title IX, we always talk about it. They bring in Miss Hamill to talk to us about it. And I mean, reading this chapter, I understand why it's such a stress, because I would hate for my daughter or even my son that will have to go through this of being mistreated by the other sex or something like that. Another fact is 20% of repeat perpetrators are also student athletes, which raises issues about recruiting student athletes with previous histories of sexual assault or athletic department cover-ups. Honestly, before reading that, I did not know that this takes a big part into recruiting. But it makes sense now, because obviously you wouldn't want a predator on your college campus that could commit another act such as sexual assault. Another thing is, in 2017, more than 300 active investigations were underway by the DOE, Department of Education. In addition to the DOE investigations, dozens of universities are currently being sued by victims of sexual harassment, of sexual violence for university alleged failure to protect students from discrimination of Title IX. One story that I would like to read, which is on page 367, is basically the Baylor allegation that went on, and I think 2011, early 2010, or like early 2011, 2015, something like that. But I would like to read a story that is about, or that would be a great example for what I am talking about. One notable example of the effect of Title IX sexual violence guidelines are having on college athletics comes from Baylor University. The university's football program was at the center of one of the largest sexual violence scandals in history. In 2015, after the second football player was convicted of sexual assault, BU finally launched a review, and the findings of that review were alarming. The report found that BU athletic staff failed to properly investigate complaints and discouraged victims from reporting sexual assaults. The university's handling of a rampant sexual assault occurring within its football team was an institutional failure at every level. Baylor's head football coach, athletic director, and university presidents were all fired or resigned. As a result of this scandal, it was estimated that since 2011, there may have been as many as 125 victims on BU's campus, and at least 19 football players were accused of sexual or domestic assault since 2011. One lawsuit against Baylor alleged that 31 football players committed at least 52 acts of rape, including 5 gang rapes between 2011 and 2014. Thus, sports management professionals working in college athletics and will continue to be affected by these federal laws, regulations enforced by the DOE. Moving on to my last topic, and then a trivia will pick this up, or is the state legal system. The legislator of each state is responsible for enacting to govern its citizens in a matter where federal legislation is silent. The state's constitution is the highest level, or is the highest legal authority in the state. Its statutes must always be consistent with the U.S. Constitution. 2 areas of law that are based solely on state law are torts and contracts. I know torts is a new word, but trivia will pick up on the tort law. A tort is a civil wrong, and a wrong that was done to one person. That's it. Thank you.